Action fanatics, welcome to another edition of the Bulletproof Podcast. I'm your host, Chris the Brain. Joining me for this special episode, it is the Toyman, Chris DePetrillo.
A special episode featuring two Bulletproof Action legends to talk about Karate Kid legends.
Oh, we really are legends. And I'll tell you what, we have had, I would say the past 3 or so episodes, I've really felt good about here on the Bulletproof Podcast. So I'm sure the two of us can manage to break that streak here this week.
Minus Ryan Campbell. He takes no blame for anything that happens with this episode.
Exactly. He is probably hoping that we just tank. But we'll find out, folks. We will find out. We do, want to thank everybody who has been checking out the show. And I also want to thank people who have checked out bulletproofaction.com. As this drops tomorrow, Matt Spector has found an unlikely movie for the Count the Bastards list. And he will be reviewing it tomorrow. Direct from New Zealand, this movie came.
Oh, a bastard from another continent.
Right. So, when it's the old school Kung Fu movies, it's not a shock that they have that's, what inspired the idea to make the list, but it's always nice when a random one comes up. Also tomorrow, you know where I'm going to be tomorrow night, Chris?
Where are you going to be?
I'm going to be at the theater checking out Ballerina.
Excellent. It looks good. I am excited for that one. I don't know if I will get to it in the theater. We were talking off air about my busy schedule over the next couple of weeks, which will not take away from any content provided to bulletproofaction.com or the Bulletproof Podcast. But no, it looks good. I am a fan of the John Wick series, so I do like how they're keeping that one going. That's been a fun one. I did not expect that movie to turn into the franchise that it has been, but you know what? Could say the same thing about the Fast and Furious oh so long ago.
Right. So that should be up either late Wednesday night or early Thursday, my review for Ballerina. And then there's a new Netflix movie coming out on Friday with a little MMA theme, which is appropriate since the name of it is KO. So I'll be covering that for the site as well. And you know what else?
How many movies do you think there are named KO?
I will find out. I haven't looked into it yet. I haven't looked into it, but I'm sure I will make note of it in my review. And I may also mention Kevin Owens while I'm at it.
As you should.
As I should. He's a Canadian wrestler, much like Gary Robbins.
Oh, Ryan Campbell is going to love you for that one. See, I was going to try to sneak it in later on, but there we go. There is the Gary Robbins reference of the week, folks.
Indeed. And while we're talking Bulletproof Action, let's hype up something that's going to happen in a couple weeks, because you know what? We haven't had a theme week all year on Bulletproof Action, but that's going to change in the month of June, because it is going to be Wild West Week on bulletproofaction.com. I'm going to tell you what, it's going to one of the things I wanted to be covering is Django the Bastard.
I wonder why you'll be covering that.
I'm excited about that one. And I know you are excited about what you will be covering, because you're covering one that's been a long time coming and is filled with some action legends.
Phil, and I know that you're looking forward to what I'm covering as well. Not only my content, but the subject of the review itself. Long awaited, Cynthia Rothrock's Black Creek, which just has an abundance of Bulletproof Action favorites, the people that we grew up on, the people that we talk about and love to refer back to and review the movies of old. There is a new movie coming out with all of those people. It's got the Western theme, but it promises to have the same level of martial arts action and excitement that all of these people, Cynthia Rothrock, the late Richard Norton, Keith Cook, Billy Blanks, just so many people involved in this movie. I am really looking forward to this one, and I will have a No Surrender Cinema covering Black Creek during Wild West Week.
Oh, it is going to be wild. Also, the podcast is going to get wild too, because we're going to be covering Charles Bronson in Breakheart Pass. I'll have some Young Guns content for everybody. And Matt Spector has another spaghetti western, this one called Coming At Ya. And that'll be coming at you as part of Wild West Week, bulletproofaction.com. I believe that's let me check the calendar here, folks.
Pull up
It
the
will
schedule.
start on the 16th, June 16th. So there you have it. It is going to be Wild West Week on bulletproofaction.com. All right. I think we've filibustered enough here. Let's
Let's
talk
get to the
about
heart of the matter.
what we're going to talk about, because last week a brand new movie hit, and it's one of those rare occasions where more than one of us saw the brand new movie within days of each other. Talking about Karate Kid Legends.
Yep. And you knew that I was not going to miss this one in the theater. You luckily got the jump on me.
I did.
Luckily for you, unluckily for me, you were able to go to an early preview screening, and I made it to the night before preview screening in my area. So we both managed to sneak it in before release date. But
Right.
this was one that I was not going to miss in the theater. Zach was excited for it, coming off of Cobra Kai. Even though we knew there was not going to be a strong Cobra Kai tie-in, it's still just a beloved franchise of ours. So we actually made a big night out of it. One of Zach's buddies had his birthday this past week, so for his birthday present, this young man goes to karate, knows that Zach is into the martial arts, watches Cobra Kai, watches Zach just watched Showdown again for the first time in a while the other
Excellent.
day. So he was very into the mood to see this movie, and
Mm-hmm.
so we treated his buddy to his a big birthday night out. We took him, his sister, and his dad out for Karate Kid Legends, so we got to enjoy it as a nice group.
And it really is a great family movie. I also wanted to point out before we get too into it, some other big news I received at the screening of Karate Kid Legends, or afterwards, actually. I'm going to be going to a Superman screening as well.
Now that probably means as much, if not more, to you than it would
Yes.
mean to me if I had gotten the early preview for this.
Yeah.
Because Superman,
Yeah.
we've
And
talked about how the
being,
Incredible Hulk is my thing for superheroes. Superman is yours.
yep, he is. And I will be an eternal optimist going into every movie, even though uh, since Superman 3 they haven't quite lived up to my optimism. But you know what, I'm a fan, and I will always go. I will always go, so I'm
I
looking forward
mean,
to it. But yeah, let's
judging by the trailers alone, at least it seems like we're getting some action in this one, as opposed to Superman Returns, which was just, hi, I'm flying and I'm emotional.
yeah, Superman Returns, great Clark Kent, horrible
Hmm.
Superman, horrible. He didn't get to do anything. He got shot in the eye with a bullet, and it didn't hurt him. That's all I remember. And he picked
Now,
up
did
the.
you watch the CW show at all? The newer one?
I watched the first couple episodes, and I didn't get into it.
Okay, because I saw like the bare minimum of that. I saw like a couple of clips here and there, but after Flash and Arrow ended, I kind of fell out of the
Mm-hmm.
CW verse or whatever you want to call it there. So
Right.
I didn't know if I was missing on out on anything by not diving,
I
headfirst
mean, it
into
was
that.
okay. I don't know. It wasn't didn't hook me. I mean, maybe at some point, now that it's over, I could just binge it at some point and watch it all. But the week to week commitment, it wasn't get me to keep coming back. So
Now,
I
do
love
you think they
Smallville.
are making, oh, Smallville was great. I loved Smallville. Do
That
you
I
think
watch
they're
religiously, all the way to the end. Even when I was like, this probably should have ended maybe a season ago, but I kept watching because I was
yeah, well,
too
because at
far
that
in.
point you're invested. You just got to see it through.
Right, I was too far in.
But do you think that there's a mistake being made by trying to do what appears, at least on the surface, to be so much world building by having like Guy Gardner and Metamorpho and Crypto? Like, it's a Superman film,
Right.
but it seems like they're branching out very
Yeah.
quickly. So, I do have some faith in James Gunn. He's done good stuff for Marvel, but at the same time, people just want a good Superman movie,
Right.
and having too much the other way might take away from that.
It could. I mean, I don't. I mean, I guess the thing there is, would well, some of them might, but if it's characters who are never going to have their own standalone movie, eh, I don't mind as much. And it really obviously depends on how much are they in the movie. Is it,
Right, like does Guy Gardner show up for like the final battle or something?
right? So what's happening there? So yeah, is it going to water down the hero content if they're there the whole time? Probably, but again, I'm going to go in optimistic, much like I did when I went into Karate Kid Legends, because there was talk like, oh, this is not a very good movie. Like the early buzz was like, oh no, it's not good. But I just was thinking to myself, why? Like as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this movie.
Not at all.
There's nothing remarkable about it either. Really, I mean, there's some.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say nothing, but it's like it's a freaking Karate Kid movie. Why are like if you were going to bitch about Karate Kid movies, this should have started back at Karate Kid 2, because you could make the argument there's never been a need for another one
Hmm.
after the first.
Yeah.
It was basically just a variation on that same story over and over again. But it's done well and it has interesting characters. You continue to watch it. It's one of those feel good type movies,
Hmm.
comfort movies. You go to see it. So, going in, it's like, what the hell were people expecting? Like, did they want this to be complete? And if it was completely different, there'd be a whole section of people being like, what the hell? You've ruined my Karate Kid.
You know what? This is why we do what we do. This is why Bulletproof Action exists in the written format on the website, in the podcast format that you're listening to here now, because mainstream reviews, you really have to take them with a grain of salt. I feel like the mainstream reviews, there's always, they're trying to cater to someone, whether it's just, people don't get it or whatever. For what we do, and the many other people, our peers, people that have guest written for us, guest starred on the podcast, people that share our content, we are all cut from the same cloth. And sure, like, you and I are probably walking into this with some level of favoritism. Maybe even me more so than you, given my we'll say obsession with this franchise since I at an early age. But even if you are a casual moviegoer, even if you do not give two, a damn about what this franchise means to people or whatever, this movie was a breeze to watch.
Yep.
Like you said, it was a good family film. It appealed to everybody. It wasn't too childish, but it didn't get too adult. It pretty much kept that Cobra Kai vibe. And there were no lulls. There was no
No,
sense
they
of
didn't.
boredom.
Right. They moved from one thing to the next in this one. Let's talk about the Karate Kid in it. Newcomer to the franchise, Ben Wang, who played Li Fong. He was quite impressive, and that was kind of a bit of a difference because while he did not know karate, he's a kung fu prodigy.
Yeah, that was, he's not, yes, he is the underdog, but not for a lack of skill. It was more so the fish out of water story
Right.
than necessarily being the underdog. And the movie obviously touched on, the emotional beats that made him, um, less confident, having to overcome like more of an internal struggle than a physical struggle.
Right.
But, he was training with, Sifu Han, Jackie Chan, not goddamn Barry Chan, not the
Thank
man
God.
Barry Chan,
Thank
but
God.
the other Chan, Jackie Chan.
Yeah, that successful
Um,
one.
so, he came over to America. His mother, who did not approve of his fighting, which is ironic that she at one point played a very famous fighter, a very famous street fighter.
Mm, that's
I'm sure
right.
you
Ming
picked up
Na
on that
Wen.
one.
I
Ming Na
sure
Wen
did.
played Chun-Li. Yep, in
Sure
the
did.
in the beloved cult classic Street Fighter film. And so I will say that as we get to the heart of the story, I'll ask you before we describe it, did his reason for having his confidence shattered give you Kickboxer 2 vibes?
Ah,
Because
you
it
know,
did for me.
It did not, and now that you say it, it did. The vibe I was getting was that the mother, she did not, she lost. Or we should say this ahead of time. Spoiler alert. Okay, but okay, if you're listening to this, you've either seen the movie already or you really weren't rushing out to see it anyhow. So, and it's also a Karate Kid movie. So guess what? I bet you could figure out a lot of it. Just I'm thinking you can, but no. So his mom, she had two sons. The older brother of Li Fong was a competitive martial artist, won a big tournament. The guy he beat was a sore loser, attacked him on the street, and unfortunately, the brother died. So now, mother is like, I don't like this kung fu bullshit. It got my son killed. I don't need to lose another son. That was reminding me of something we recently covered, being the big boss, because she wanted her son to
Hmm.
make the promise not to fight
Not to
anymore.
fight again.
And much like Sheng Xiao Wan, he found little loopholes along the way till it was just like, I just got to do this. So,
And
but now, but
that loophole was a nice twist to the story, at least as far as the fact that at one point, who, if you've watched a Karate Kid film, if you've seen the trailers for this one, you assume is going to be the student. The student at one point, for a very pivotal part of the film, was actually the teacher.
right, right, they do. Again, as I said in my review, this does a great job of expanding the Karate Kid universe. So we get a whole slew, a bunch of new characters. Primarily when his mother takes a job in New York, hoping that will also kind of okay if he's away from the school, Mr. Han's school. If he's we get this whole ugliness of what happened to her son, his brother, away. We're starting fresh in New York. There's no kung fu in New York, as far as she's concerned. We start fresh. All right. In theory, that's a great idea. They move to their apartment. Hey, I saw a pizza place around the corner. Let me go get us some dinner. And that's where he meets a former Golden Gloves boxer, played by Mr. Joshua Jackson, and more
Yes.
importantly, also his daughter, Mia.
Some very surprising casting with Joshua Jackson in the role
Yeah,
of the Italian former prize fighter.
right. And you know what? When I just quickly looked, because I hadn't gotten too deep into it, but like the day of, I'm like, I was just checking the runtime. I'm like, how long is this thing? And I saw Joshua Jackson. I was like the third person listed, and I'm thinking like, oh, is he like the villain? Is he Terry Silver? And what? Who is he?
Which I
But
mean, I mean, how great would it have been that Charlie Conway from the Mighty Ducks, or for people of a certain age like me, Pacey from Dawson's Creek, how great would it have been that he was actually like the evil sensei?
yeah, I'm like,
Um,
oh, is he going to be the villain? And that made me think. Then I was like, maybe that's why people are saying this isn't very good. Because I'm like, I can't see it. I mean, he could be. He could have done it. He could have pulled it off. But no, he is. Yeah, he's the pizza parlor owner, Victory's Pizza, I believe it was, and
yep, Victory
uh,
Pizza.
yeah, he's got his high school daughter working there, Mia, who takes there's some almost immediate sparks between Mia and Li Fong.
And I was sitting through the movie and I'm like, where have I seen this girl before? Like, why am I getting like a vibe that I've seen her and stuff? And it wasn't that I've seen this particular actress in anything that stood out. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but she gave me a lot of like Julia Stiles Save the Last Dance era vibes.
Okay, yeah,
Like
I could
like
see
her
that as well.
acting, her persona, like
Yeah,
I was
just
like it,
her swagger.
yeah, yep. And with
She was
her,
an urban, she is a New York girl, and she had confidence, and yeah, she
that's what I
wasn't a
was just about to say.
wallflower.
No, she was like the take charge, like, like, she's riding her scooter around and she's making Lee Fong sit on the back and she's kind of giving him the lay of the land. And of course, much like the original Karate Kid, she has an ex-boyfriend that isn't
Mm,
able to admit. that they are broken up, and there's still some awkward situations that Li Fang finds himself in, and then he soon finds himself on the receiving end of the purported ex's wrath.
And yes, to tangle up this web even more, this ex, Connor, played by Aramis Knight, and his real name is Aramis Knight, but his character was Connor Day.
Connor Day, yeah.
What the hell? Well, anyway, if that's not enough, he trains at this like MMA dojo,
The Demolition Dojo.
the Demolition Dojo. Better say your act of contrition. The Demolition, and the guy who owns and operates that is the same guy who loaned money to Victor, the pizza parlor man, and who Victor still owes him big money. And to the like, I don't really know how old they were. I would guess maybe 20 something at the most, sitting next to me at the theater. And at the end of the film, the guy was like, I don't understand what kind of loan that he took out. Sir, this was not, he didn't go into a U.S. bank for this loan. He went to a loan shark. And a loan shark can change the conditions
the
of
terms
loan.
of that, yeah.
He can do whatever he wants, really, and like send two guys to just beat the crap out of you if you don't pay. I don't think Chase Bank does that. I'm not sure.
No,
I'm not going to push it to find out, but they're not going to come and break my legs. I don't think.
As an Italian who was born in one of the most notable Italian American sections of the United States, I can tell you that yes, you are not dealing with your local credit union if you're borrowing, and let alone borrowing money from a guy who runs something called the Demolition Dojo. Like
Yeah.
you pretty much know you're asking for trouble at that point. Um, although this might be jumping ahead, but I will say this. It felt like the villains in this movie, less so Connor, but more the whole O'Shea thing, even though
Right.
he was involved in the wider scope of the plot, they felt more like episodic TV show villains
Yeah.
than a feature film villain.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of backstory given, not a lot of development to him. It was very much a by the numbers villain of the week type thing.
Yeah. So in that way, and I will agree with you, the weakest part of this movie is that villain O'Shea, because they just don't do much with him. So to the 20 something who was sitting next to me, I can understand where he might be, and he's not a grizzled person like myself who has seen. I've never dealt with him personally, but I've seen plenty of movies with loan sharks and things of that nature. So yeah, the villains
And
are
you can
probably
read about them on bulletproofaction.com.
Yeah, I bet you. Yeah, if you put in, if you go in the little search bar and put loan shark, I'm sure at least 3 or 4 movies will pop up for you. Let's talk about Connor, because do you know who he reminded me of?
A
It
young
was
Terry Silver.
no, that would have probably been more obvious. Uh, it felt like it was Trevor Got It All's origin story.
Okay.
You remember Trevor Got It All?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, from American Shaolin. Yeah, that's when I first saw him. I'm like, he reminds me of Trevor Got It All, like a little bit younger Trevor Got It All.
See, I thought that they were going for this with the ponytail and like the
Yeah.
cockiness and like the viciousness. I thought they were trying to kind of do like a parallel to Silver, like
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing.
Yeah. No, that's probably what they were going for, and I'm just going for the nonsense of seasonal films and their
There's
Karate
no
Kid.
nonsense when it comes to seasonal films. We do love
Oh,
our seasonal films.
we do, and honestly, American Shaolin is one we should probably cover at some point this year.
What was his name in real life, Trevor? Was it Trent something?
Yeah, I can't
I'll have to look
remember
this
it.
up now.
Look him up. So yeah, that's what he reminded me of. Was Trevor Got
Trent
It All?
Bushy.
Trent Bushy.
Let's stick to Trevor got it all. Wait, Trent. Now we're gonna have to replace the Gary Robbins references with Trent Bushy. See, Ryan
Trent,
Campbell. See what you miss.
that's
Ryan
right.
Campbell's gonna be all about the Trent Bushy references now.
Oh, he's got something horrible to say about it, I'm sure. Um, so yeah, he's the and they have a little school. As luck would also have it, he goes to this. He being Lee Fong goes to the same school as Connor, and they get into it in the schoolyard, and
In a fight where Li Fong gets to show off his skills. I mean,
right.
he is not, beaten down and humiliated. I mean, he is holding his own, at least as far as kind of going toe to toe for a few minutes, and then he basically tries like a Tekken Street Fighter, finishing move
The
on
dragon
Connor.
kid that he learned from his brother.
Yep.
But Connor's good. I mean, you can't, he's a jackass and a arrogant son of a bitch, but you can't deny he's got skills, and he was able to catch Li Fong coming down with that dragon kick. And that's kind of, that helps bond him with Victor, because now Li Fong shows up at the pizza parlor with a black eye, and his mother, of course, has told him not to fight. And Victor has been down this alley too, where he had to maybe cover up some bruises and some black eyes back in the day. So if you ever wanted to see old Joshua Jackson putting makeup on someone, I mean, this is the movie for you.
I mean, you didn't get that on Dawson's Creek.
No, you sure as hell didn't. I don't know. I've never watched Dawson's Creek.
You should. Excellent
I'm
show.
not. I'm not going to. I can. Spoiler alert. No, that's not one I'm gonna watch. No offense, it just doesn't feel like something that I would be into.
Coming soon to No Surrender Cinema, Dawson's Creek fight scenes.
Jesus Christ, help me, please. This is what I have to deal with, folks. These ideas come across the desk, and my, So yeah, I mean, we set that up, but now we get that bond between Victor and Li Fong, and again, as we mentioned, Victor owes O'Shea a ton of money. Well, I don't know, a ton of more money than he's got for sure, but since he's got
It was
those old
it was like 50 grand. It was
50
something
grand, yeah, it wasn't like
relatively
ridiculous,
small, but
but not,
it wasn't
yeah,
millions.
right. He's probably not making 50 grand at the pizza parlor, maybe
No.
not, not in a short span of time anyway. So, um, but he's got a good, he's still got the connections from his days as a Golden Gloves boxer, but he's going to need something more. He's going to need a secret weapon. And that's where Li Fong comes in and really changes the
AKA
whole
Stuffed
game.
Crust.
His name's
Let's not
Stuffed
forget that
Crust.
Victor nicknames him Stuffed Crust.
Because he comes walking in to an authentic New York City pizza parlor owned and operated by Italian Americans, and he asks if they have a stuffed crust pizza.
And again,
It's
as an Italian American whose family owns an Italian bakery that sells pizzas and calzones, we do not have a stuffed crust.
right. Get a calzone if you want something stuffed, for God's sake. Although I do enjoy a stuffed crust pizza now and then. But that's kind of like the whole hamburger. Sometimes you just need the quick, easy hamburger. Sometimes it's nice to get the big, juicy restaurant quality, or just do it at home yourself. Make yourself some good burgers on the grill. So yeah, he changes the whole game with incorporating all the kung fu techniques. He learns the 1-inch punch, which
Yeah, the
comes
one
into
inch
play.
punch.
Classic. A lot of nice little nods to old school kung fu, which is obviously been the case from the beginning of this franchise. I mean, I think we've talked about it here before. The whole Karate Kid concept of like the fighting schools, I mean, that was played out dozens and dozens and dozens of times in some of those old school kung fu movies. It was like they they took some of that, they took some Rocky, and they took some of the John Hughes teenage drama of the time and blended it together, and we had the Karate Kid.
Yeah, pretty much everything that you wanted from the late 70s to the mid 80s, all in one film.
And obviously, it worked because we're still, what is this, the sixth movie now? Yeah.
Yeah, you had the four original franchise films. You had the film that introduced Jackie Chan, the one with Jaden Smith,
Hmm.
and this film, which merges the world of the Karate Kid with Jackie Chan with the Karate Kid with Pat Morita and Ralph Macchio.
Indeed. So there you have it. So yeah, we get it where it's now Li Fong who is the sensei of sorts to Victor, and it gets up to the big fight, and it's looking good. Victor's doing well, but there's where we get to see O'Shea probably at his worst, because he's of course backing the other fighter in this matchup, and he doesn't really care if the guy wins. He just wants to make sure old Victor ends up in the hospital.
Yeah, it basically gives the signal for some shady dealings, couple of illegal blows, and Victor is pretty much pummeled into a concussion. He's knocked loopy, hospitalized, and Li Fong, this kind of causes him to lock up because he feels responsible, just like he's carrying the weight of his brother's death where he could not step in. He
Mm.
feels like it's happening all over again. He could not do anything to save Victor and just basically watch him get beaten.
Yeah, and that kind of puts the kibosh on his budding romance with Mia, who she's like, "I need your help. My dad is in a bad way," and he just froze. And obviously, his mom is also not happy because he's been messing around with fighting, even though he was not really doing the fighting. And
And
things
because
are,
Victor happens to go to her hospital and get her as a doctor,
of course,
because we've just got to kind of, bring this all together very quickly. Again, like I said, this movie's a breeze.
um, yeah, and that goes with the Karate Kid. I mean, it just everything falls into place, and that's every movie really in some ways. But yeah, so it's not looking good for our boy Li Fong, and of course that's what brings over from Hong Kong the man himself, Jackie Chan, the legend. Mr. Han is in New York, and he's there to see what he can do to help his number one student, Li Fong. And when he's there, he spots something very interesting. A
And
flyer
let's
that
not
is.
forget,
Go ahead.
him over because Li Fong was avoiding him. So where Daniel was kind of like, Mr. Miyagi, will you train me how to, get rid of these bullies and all this stuff? Mr. Han was trying to connect with Li Fong and then comes over knowing that, you know what, if he's not talking to me, something's got to be up. So it was kind of fortuitous for Li Fong that he came over to visit.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we get quite the internet. He kind of surprises Li Fong, and we get a nice little world's most dangerous apartment, perhaps. I don't, obviously they weren't really trying to. Well, I don't know. Li Fong may have been trying. He didn't know who it was. Um, but yeah, we got a great introduction for Mr. Han in New York. Um, and this would probably it got to a point where I would have used my famous line that I've used in many a review is I was told Ralph Macchio is in this movie because we have yet to talk about this man and we're like 30 minutes into this program.
I mean, we did see him in the beginning in the form of a
That's right.
flashback to
We did.
Karate Kid Part Two.
Yep.
And obviously the trailers, people are like, oh, Daniel
Yeah.
San's going to be in this one. Like we've seen him. This is very much, like I said, like an origin story, and it's more to bring the worlds together. That we were talking about Superman and like, how far do you want to go into the world building with like the other superheroes and stuff like that. With this built on these new characters, which I have a feeling we will see again, and used Daniel and Han, they were supplementary to the story. They were a part of it because the whole thing is about how Miyagi-Do and Kung Fu came to be and how they merged and how the families knew each other and everything. But they wanted you to see this as the Li Fong show.
Yeah.
This was all about him and his relationships, and do we get the romantic relationship where she's back for another movie? Do we get the father-son type relationship where Joshua Jackson's back for another movie? Maybe Joshua Jackson and his mom connect because they're both single parents. Like, we get
Mm.
something going there. So there's a lot of doors that they could choose to open if they keep going with sequels to this one.
Yeah, I think the one guarantee is Lee Fong. But yeah,
Hmm.
there's any number of ways they could go with that. Because as we saw too with the in the first trilogy with the Ralph Macchio trilogy, like he had different love interest in every one of those movies.
Yep.
Could be the same. Lee Fong might have to go somewhere else in the world where Mia cannot be there with him, and that could cause something. But yeah, um, it will be interesting. I can't imagine that they won't continue this at least one more. I don't know if I wasn't really paying attention to how well this performed box office wise.
According to Wikipedia, the budget was 45 million, and at least as of the last update, it had already made 47 million.
Okay, so it's making money. Didn't lose money, and that might be enough to even if it didn't lose, that may have been enough to be like, oh, we could keep doing this.
Let's
Maybe
see.
maybe
Although
just you know
I looked at Wikipedia. However, if
always a valuable source.
yep, well, if we go to the
Okay.
Hollywood Reporter says Karate Kid Legends gets kicked around by Lilo and Stitch.
Well, just because it wasn't number one. I mean, that sometimes that's too with the report. It's like, okay, yeah, it wasn't number one. Well, you know what? Only one thing could be number one.
But
Uh,
it says right here in the first paragraph, regardless of where it lands, Sony remains confident that the PG-13 film will sport strong chops thanks to an A-minus cinema score and solid exits, and its net production budget was a modest 45 million before marketing. So, take away the
mhm.
marketing, we've already broken even.
There you go. All right. Well, so yeah, we're gonna see at least one more Lee Fong movie, unless he
Mhm.
completely says, "I don't want to do this," which I don't know that that's gonna happen. But yeah, so we now get he now has two. He has two trainers, a sensei, a sifu. He's got it all. They got that old school like log gimmick up on the roof.
Mhm.
Again, a little bit of nice nod to the old school kung fu. I think I just saw that in like 18 Deadly Strikes. They were using a similar training mechanism.
There were also some nice nods to Jackie Chan's comedic fighting style and like the Sammo Hung, that type of kung
Mhm.
fu, because not every fight was, a sanitized, family-friendly, original Karate Kid type fight, but not everything was also a fight to the death. There were some like, goofy near misses and bumps and stuff like that. So they really did choreograph it as well to kind of give you the vibe that Li Fong knew a plethora of styles.
Right. Well, yeah, even Li Fong and Han fighting in the apartment in the dark. I mean,
Mhm.
that's like classic Jackie Chan.
Yep.
So yeah, you got two trainers. Two is better than one,
Two branches, one tree.
indeed. And Ralph Macchio being there to hand off, just basically being he was the original Karate Kid. You can never take that away. You can have 10 million more Karate Kids, but there's only one original, and that's Daniel's son. So him being there is absolutely, I mean, what better way to launch off this new chapter of the movies than have him involved?
A new protege. Which now some people who have watched Cobra Kai might be like, well, why didn't Johnny go? Like, whatever. From what I read about the synopsis of this, even before it had come out, this movie, as far as where it takes place, is supposed to be several years after the finish of Cobra Kai. So
Hmm.
we are not 6 months away from the finish. We are not doing this in real time. So this is to be a little bit later after we last saw Daniel LaRusso.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, you figured because, and that's the other thing. All the kids should be in college, so they don't really can't just pick up and go like you wouldn't have Sam coming Robbie or any of those. Well, I guess he could have, but he's on a world tour. He's a marketing man now. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because then it would almost be like, why didn't you just make a Cobra Kai movie then? Like if it was
I
too
mean,
much.
I wouldn't hate him for it. Give it to me.
Like I honestly, and I guess we can get into this because I did catch up on Cobra Kai because I had not watched the last season
No, you
of
just
Cobra Kai.
recently finished.
I'm like, you know what? Before I start into a new chapter of this story, maybe I should finish up what I started. Uh, and I remember just when the previous season ended, I'm like, how are they going to drag this out? Like, I thought then that's where they should have just said, you know what? Let's just do a big Cobra Kai movie where it's the big tournament, and that's the movie. And part of me, as I was watching some of the early episodes in the season, was like, I really wish they would have done what I asked them to. Because let me tell you, and I will say this first: they ended that series wonderfully. Everything was
Mhm.
made whole. Everyone came out the better for it. Those who deserve to come out better for it. But by God, there were some of those moments with these fucking kids. Let me tell you what. Teenagers are the worst human beings on the planet Earth. They are the worst versions of ourselves more often than not. These kids and their fucking squat. I'm thinking to myself, if they can get their heads out of their ass for these Friday the 13th movies or these Freddy movies, I would cast as many of these annoying ass fucking Cobra Kai kids as I could, just so people could watch them die on screen, because I wanted to see them all die at some point. They're very annoying. I think Miguel's the only one who never really got on my nerves through the whole run, but all the back and forth, and oh my God.
So, so, ladies and gentlemen, my son will not be sending Uncle Chris the Brain a Christmas card this year.
Oh my God, these kids.
The Mr. Wilson to Dennis the Menace, everybody, right here on the
I
Bulletproof
felt like,
Podcast.
yeah, I'm like, oh my God, there's not all of
There's a
us.
reference for everybody, a Mr. Wilson reference in 2025.
Uh, Dennis the I loved the movie Dennis the Menace. What a
We were
fun
actually
film.
watching the cartoon not that long ago because the
The
cartoon
cartoon
was
was
on
good
TV.
too. Yeah, I remember the
Cartoon was
cartoon was
fun.
good too. But that movie, that one gets me every time I watch it. I enjoy that
I
one.
saw that in the theater.
I didn't see it right. I'm like, I'm not gonna watch that. And then I remember being, I think it was like around Christmas time, and I just remember having like the worst flu, and I was just like dying. So they'd be like, "What's on?" And I'm like, "Oh," and I like, "Wow, this is good." I really, and I'm like, part of me was like, maybe I was just like had too much of a fever or something. But then I watched it when I was healthy, and I enjoyed it. I own it, so I really must enjoy it. But yeah, those Cobra Kai kids could really, I mean, oh, they're bullshit. Oh, they all deserved a machete to the head at some point. Except you, Miguel. You were okay with me. Um, but yeah, where were we before I went on that tangent? Oh yeah, so yeah, there was no need to have all these Cobra Kai people in there. I think Daniel LaRusso was enough of a connection to the original, and then obviously tying in the Mr. Han from the reboot. I mean, right there. I mean, just when they announced that, I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting, because you wondered how are they going to do it, and they did a really great job of combining the two.
Mhm. And you basically start Li Fang's story like you don't start with what causes him to be this way and leave like, his story is kind of like already in motion.
Right.
He's already training. He's already under Han. Han is his great uncle, which is why he's training under him. He's already got the turmoil with his mom. So it's not like, hey, here's this kid and boom, then something happens. It's like, no, like this has already kind of been ongoing, which spurs the move to New York, which puts him in the midst of all of this turmoil with Victor and then meeting the daughter and getting into it with Connor. So, they really, they wasted no time in just kind of thrusting him into the forefront of the Karate Kid world.
Right. Right. And the movie, wait, as you said, waste no time. It didn't, there was no need for this movie to be 2 hours long. We didn't need everything to be drawn out and kind of like Cobra Kai. We didn't need all that. We just did it. We just got from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And yeah, there was a lot of convenient things, as you said. Victor ends up in the hospital where the his mom works, and oh, she was also on duty at the time, and oh, she's the one who's taking care of him. It's like, yeah, of all the doctors in New York, of all the hospitals in New York, what are the odds? But that's all right. But the big thing, and what Han finds in Li Feng's room is the crumpled up flyer for the Five Boroughs Championship.
Now, some would say the Five Boroughs Championship is the New York equivalent of the All Valley.
That's exactly what I called it in my review.
And I would agree with that. However, the vibe I got from it, again, I'm going to make another reference here. We'll see if you agree. This felt more like the beatdown from the original Never Back Down.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that with they kind of just like almost like pop up locations, and they just
Yeah, pop up
go.
like at nightclubs and everything
Yep,
because the finale takes place on the roof of a
beautiful.
skyscraper.
Yep, and I like the like video game razzle dazzle that they added into it.
Where
Um,
everybody has like like an NXT random generator name.
right. Oh yeah,
Ev-
Lion's Mane was the best. That was the best name. Good one.
And
And
there was like blue something.
mhm.
Yeah, everybody had like a wacky, very obvious not their real name.
And I like that stuffed crust made it as like his official moniker.
As his little handle. Yep.
It's good. It stuck with him. Um, so yeah, we get again. Guess what, folks? Guess what? Here's the Karate Kid movie. Here's you had a bit of an underdog. He has some turmoil, personal turmoil. Gets bullied. He and the bully are in this tournament, and guess what? They're on opposite ends of the bracket. They're not meeting in round one or two. No, 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 no. They are on the opposite ends. They make their way through. They're the big final fight. Spoiler alert.
Didn't see that one coming.
No. And and if you didn't see that one coming, you're gonna shit your pants when you see how it turns out.
Well, let's not forget that they threw a twist, which I will admit this part felt somewhat shoehorned in, and I get why they did it because they wanted to, make them earn their paycheck and give some fan service. We established earlier that O'Shea, we don't know much about O'Shea past the point that he's apparently some type of mob affiliated guy and Victor owes him money. And there is a scene where he sends guys to shake Victor down, where Li Fong, protects Victor and steps in. So we get a nice little back alley kung fu fight. But in the middle of the tournament final, he's just like, go get that kid. And like sends his guys in to like back Connor up. And we get Jackie Chan and Daniel getting physical to basically kind of it was almost like the end of WrestleMania where
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rollins and Jey Uso where everybody ran out to take care of the
Right.
bloodline so that Cody Rhodes could defeat Roman Reigns. So that one was it was a fun little piece, but it was almost like okay, like we couldn't have found a better way to give them a little bit of action. Um, but the other thing that brings everything full circle is we talked about the dragon kick, which,
Yep.
Connor knocked him out. Like, he caught him sleeping on that one.
Yep.
And they train him to modify it to where Connor
Yeah.
will think it's coming one way, but if you can get low under his kick, you can counter his counter. And how does he counter Connor? By sweeping the leg.
Yeah, and I did love the training that they went to the subway station, and that's how they helped him train that for that. That
Yep.
was
Where
good.
we get some more humor, where he kept cracking his
Right,
head on the rail.
making use of your surroundings as well. That's very Jackie Chan ish as
Hmm.
well. You know what I thought was about to happen because he beats Connor, but then sore loser Connor. Again, I forgot the spoiler. Anyway, he beats Connor, and sore loser Connor comes after him. You know what I was expecting?
I know exactly what you were expecting because I was expecting it too.
The
Something
honk.
that happens at the beginning of Karate Kid Part 2.
I was expecting the honk.
Yep.
Just grab the note. I'm like, oh, here it comes, and it didn't happen. Missed opportunity there. That would have been perfect.
Yep. But
I
now
was
let's also talk about how, the original Karate Kid, the way that they built it was that, Johnny was humbled and, you're all right, LaRusso, and,
right.
that's how they ended that there. This one has Connor losing, Connor attacking, Connor's attack getting thwarted, and then Li Fong backs off and bows to him and basically is like, you need to respect me now. So the heel was humbled twice and still didn't show a sign of respect until the babyface basically made him.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
we don't get like the besties story out of this. Like
that's
they're
fine,
very clearly still on opposite
and
sides.
that's fine. I mean that's the other. It's like all the like you don't just change like that overnight, instantaneous. Well, you
Right.
do if you're in Russia and you're fighting Rocky Balboa, but
If I could
you,
change, you can change.
you're right. They can all change, but he's just had how many years of training it to be an asshole. Like it's not just gonna disappear in a with some reflection and with some time. Yeah, you could see Connor coming back, and maybe being on the side of Li Fong. That's another way to go. Or will Connor in how many years was it between Cobra Kai and the will he come back decades from now as a
That's true. Yeah, too. Yeah, if they like do like another, long range
it's
reboot,
called
20 years from
Demolition
now.
Dojo is coming back.
But
Demolition Dojo is coming
we're
in 30
we're
years
not
from
we're
now.
not we're not we're not getting Demolition Dojo does not have the lure. I can't see myself wearing a Demolition Dojo shirt
No,
20 years from now.
no, probably not. Probably not. And yeah, I don't know. I might not be around. I know this microphone won't be, but I won't be around maybe in 30 years for Demolition Dojo. Or
No, we'll be here podcasting. We'll be like the Statler and Waldorf of
I'll be
martial arts fans at that point.
I'll be in the nursing home complaining about something. I'm sure, possibly teenagers and how they need a machete to the head. Yeah. So there it goes. I mean, again when it's over, I'm like, yep, that was a Karate Kid movie. It was good. It had a nice ending. It had good music in there.
Mhm.
It was a Karate Kid movie. If you go in, you know what you're getting, and they did a good job with it. And yeah, I'd like to see more Li Fong in action because he's good,
Yeah, very good.
and I'd like to see him not karate, especially as he gets older. Hopefully, that will help. We need more martial arts superstars
Yeah,
in
we
the
need the next
movies.
generation. We got to pass that torch.
So if it's Li Fong or Ben Wang in this case, he's not Li Fong. Unless he goes like the Bolo route, where he just changes his name
Changes his name.
to the character he's most known for. But yeah, I thought it was good, and glad I got to see it, and glad we got to talk about it here. On your final thoughts, being the resident Karate Kid super fan.
I think it was a worthy sequel. My only complaints were that the villains were pretty one note. They did not explore that, but that also lends to the fact that the movie really flies by, not in a way where you can't pick up on what's going on. There's enough plot there to let the story make sense and let things kind of sit with you. And, we've got a likable hero. I think that if they go ahead and make another sequel or if they continue on with this, we might explore further aspects of things. I liked the twist of him kind of being the mentor to someone not only older, but also as his kind of workaround to train again, kind of hone his skills again. So that was a nice little difference in what we've seen in previous films. But yeah, I mean, I do not see the Demolition Dojo and Connor Day becoming as beloved, even as cult favorites, as Johnny
Yeah,
Lawrence and Cobra Kai. That's really my only complaint is that we didn't have a very strong villain,
right.
but I think the hero that we got and the fan service that we got from Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan more than made up for it. Two thumbs up from me. Really enjoyed it. And you mentioned owning Dennis the Menace. Well, I will own this film as I do many others that I love. This is one that will end up in the physical media collection for sure.
You know, thinking about it, like the obvious opponent for Li Fong would be the guy that killed his brother.
Hmm.
Now that's a strong ass villain,
Which would go the Kickboxer 2 route when you had
right?
Tong Po facing off with David Sloan.
Yeah. So there's your second movie. He comes over. He comes over.
Does he come over or does Li Fong like go
Or does
back
Li Fong
home
go back,
or
right?
something?
Or is it a neutral site? Is it some kind of they're both involved in like the hell was that thing? They said it 9,000 times. The senpai, tenpai, pentai, kentai. Go
Sakai
fuck.
Takai.
Yeah, whatever. Go fuck yourself. That shit. So
Listen, Cobra Kai is one of the best things that we've ever been blessed with as far as an action
that was
franchise.
good.
And
Again, by the end, I was like, "Oh my god!" I'm
and
right back into it. But boy, it was a
all right,
it
well,
was rocky
you know
getting
what?
there.
We didn't really talk about it after you saw it, but you know how I felt about it because I'm a big blubbering baby. How did you feel about that scene with Johnny and Kreese?
It was all right. You know what got me more was the baby when they were all in the hospital room.
Mm.
That whole family that got me more than the Crease and Johnny thing. Maybe because I was expecting that. I don't know. Just seeing all the because it was all those. It was good to see them all on the same page and together.
Now, see, we've pretty much just guaranteed that this franchise can go on long after we're gone because,
Right.
30 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, you could
Right.
get Li Fong being the mentor to Johnny's kid.
Right. And taking on Demolition Dojo.
That's not happening.
Hmm. What
No,
if Bill? What if
unless
Bill
someone makes
Eady
like
gets
one of those
involved?
parody. I was just, you know what? You just read my mind. I was gonna say, unless someone makes one of those like T Public parody shirts where Axe and Smash are secretly running this dojo, I
Oh
can't see
yeah,
myself wearing a Demolition Dojo shirt.
that'd be nice. I can see them do it. They could do it. I mean, especially Barry Darso. I mean, he was a trucker and a golfer and a repo man. He was a Russian. He could
And
be a
apparently,
he could
Bill
be a.
Eady was saying that their deal that they just signed with WWE gives Mattel the rights to doing all their
I
old
saw
gimmicks
that.
over the next 6 years.
I saw that. Yeah.
So we're gonna get all. I'm gonna have to make some room in the collection because I missed out on the original Demolition release, but I'm definitely gonna want to grab some of those gimmicks.
Yeah, I've got them. I wouldn't mind a super machine. I have to imagine that the super machine and the mass superstar will be the same figure, like just with different heads.
And they're gonna re-release the Giant Machine now.
Yeah, I have him. So it would be nice
Yeah.
to have the super machine with my giant machine. And yeah, I wouldn't mind a Repo Man. That's from the kind of the era that I collect. Prussia Khrushchev, probably not so much. I mean, it's cool. I'm glad they're making these things, but yeah. All right. Well, Toyman, send him. Everyone out there, make some Demolition Dojo merch and send it to the Toyman. He wants to wear it everywhere he goes, and get him some stuffed crust pizza coupons as well. Throw it in the bag with it. See, he likes.
Demolition Dojo is not the type of double D's that I support.
Oh, whoa! Send
Because
him a
after this
man.
podcast, I'm going to watch the Bikini Car Wash Company.
Send him a manzir as well if he's got some double D's he has to support. Um. So there you go, folks. Karate Kid Legends. Very exciting. And you know what's very exciting? I'm talking about next week because we're going to cover one that I've been anxious to talk about. How about it? It's not just June, it's Stanley Cup season, and we're going to talk some sudden death.
Yeah. We made references to Van Damme earlier, talking about kickboxer and everything. So now we're actually going to bring the man back to the podcast, tie it in to the Stanley Cup season, and get some sudden death. A film that is celebrating its 30th anniversary this
Yep,
year.
later this year. That is correct. I remember going. I went with my dad to see it. I think it came out in December. And we checked it out because my dad's a big hockey fan. So it was the perfect Van Damme movie to see with him.
Perfect family viewing, just like Karate Kid Legends was.
And yeah, I remember when I got the VHS, the whole family gathered around down in the basement and watched some sudden death. So
This
that
is
was
actually one that maybe I'll have to sit back and watch this one with Zach because he has not seen this one.
yeah,
I think he
it's a
will like
good
it.
it's a yeah. There's Van Damme doesn't his ass is not bared in this one, and there's no like love story or anything. It's Die Hard at the Stanley
Yeah,
Cup.
a lot of havoc in an arena.
So looking forward to reliving that one and talking about it. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, 2 weeks from this episode dropping, we will be covering Breakheart Pass as part of Wild West Week. And you can tell us what you'd like us to cover in the future, or what you loved about this episode or hated about this episode, or if you want to also see some Cobra Kai kids get Freddy Krueger in the stomach. Let me know. And let us know at Bulletproof Pod on X and Blue Sky, and at Bulletproof Action on Instagram and Facebook. Um, I don't think there's anything else that I needed to promote or hype. I know I'll be on the DTV Connoisseur podcast coming up here soon. We should be recording later this week. We're going to be covering the new Image film Cold Harvest. Mr. Gary Daniels and Brian Genesee, so I'm looking forward to that. I always enjoy chatting with Matt on his program. And do you have anything else you'd like to promote or talk about, or anything? Any more?
Always. Uh-oh.
Any, what?
I was gonna you had something to say, so I was wondering what was coming my way. How
I
did I
was
need
gonna,
to defend myself now?
no, I was just going to say, do you have any more Gary Robbins references you want to make, or Trent Bushy?
No. I mean, well, I don't have any Trent Bushy references per se. However, I am gonna go back to that IMDb. Give me one moment as I pull up American Shaolin again, because Ryan Campbell is really going to be sad that he missed out on this episode. Because not only did we squeeze in a Trent Bushy reference,
Yeah,
but do you know who also worked on American Shaolin?
Gary
It was
Robbins.
edited by, no,
No.
it was edited by Alan Poon.
Oh
So it was
yeah.
a Bushy Poon production
Oh my gosh.
with cinematography from Viking Chew.
Yeah, which is a Ryan Campbell's favorite tobacco. He doesn't chew tobacco. Yeah, Bushy Poon. That sounds more like a '70s type situation than it would '80s or '90s. But
That reminds me of the film Bulletproof with Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans that I covered a long time ago on No
yeah,
Surrender Cinema. But
check it
there's a
out,
scene
folks.
where they're hiding out in the motel, and Adam Sandler says, "This is a '70s porno. You know how I can tell? His dick has sideburns."
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't watch that too long ago.
It's been on cable lately. I've seen it popping up, and I'm not sure if it's on any of the apps, but it's been
Yeah,
on.
it had to be on something streaming. It's maybe in the last year or so that I remember. Like, oh yeah, 20. I mean, because I think I saw it way back when it first came out, but
Hmm.
hadn't seen it in forever. And
From the great year of 1996. But speaking of No Surrender Cinema and the 70s, the most
yeah,
recent column covering Mitchell, my tribute to Joe Don Baker by going
that's
back and
right.
watching the unedited actual R-rated version of a film made famous by the crew over at Mystery Science Theater 3000. One of the funniest episodes, one of my favorite episodes. But I watched the film in all of its unedited glory, complete with a bastard reference
Oh
just for
yeah,
you.
thank you.
Um, and you know what? It made me feel right at home as I sat back and watched it on Tubi and noticed that the version they have uploaded came from a master tape, not a digitized version, because it had tracking issues. So
Classic.
I did appreciate that. And then we also made reference to Goddamn Barry Chan. Goddamn Barry Chan was in the No Surrender Cinema before that because I went and found an old film of his called Revolt of the Dragon. Do not be misled by the movie poster. It has
Revolting.
nothing to do with Bruce Lee,
Nope.
but it was another
It's the only way
way
they could
for
get people to pay to go see it, though.
listen. You even got me calling him goddamn Barry Chan, but
I
I mean it
know.
in a
It's the
positive sense.
proper way. It's his
It's
name. That's a
it's
better
proper
name.
English here on this podcast.
It's a
But
better name. It's a more marketable name. If you want to make
well,
a
you know what?
goddamn Barry Chan shirt with that Moop face on it, go for it, people, and put milkshake on the back. It
You
all
know what?
makes sense. What's that?
This isn't about Barry though. This was about God dang Ben Wang. That's what this
Okay.
podcast was about.
Ben Wang is
I'm gonna
good.
Ben Wang is very good.
I'm pulling for him to become the next martial arts action superstar of the
So
future.
as Ryan Campbell would say, you're pulling for Wang.
I suppose so. I suppose he might, because since he took over the Chad Cruz spot of just saying inappropriate things whenever he can,
Chad Cruz, we miss you. We miss your double entendres and
or just
you
straight
know,
up saying something
yeah,
perverse.
completely uncalled for, overtly sexual references.
Right? Where is maybe Chad Cruz could join us for sudden death. He's probably seen it enough times that he wouldn't even need a rewatch. He could just jump in with us and talk.
You
Jean
know what we
Claude
should do
Van
is
Damme.
we should go in like right before it and just make the sudden death Wikipedia page into like something outlandish. So if he uses that as a reference to try to get through,
Oh
we
yeah,
just totally throw him off his game.
yeah. Well, that wouldn't take much. But yeah, there you go. So next time, sudden death, bulletproofaction.com. Check it out, folks. Always something new up there. And thank you, Toyman, for joining me for this special episode. Rare that we
As
cover a
always,
brand
thank
new
you for
movie,
having
so
me.
it's nice to do so.
No,
When we
especially
can,
when
we
it's
do it.
something that we have a mutual admiration for. You know, we did that for
Right.
Bad Boys, and now we're doing
Yeah.
it here for Karate Kid. Two
And
very famous Sony franchises. So maybe Sony will throw us another bone with something else we could do very soon.
we'll probably it won't be from Sony, but I would imagine that we could probably do a Superman podcast next month, as I'm
Yes,
assuming
yes, we can.
all of us will be checking that. That's another one that I could see. Well, Chad Cruz would check out 6 months from now, but that's all right. I'll be checking out. I'm sure you will be. I know Ryan's interested in it as well. So that's coming up in July. Little preview for you all there. All right. Thank you, Chris, once again. Thank you all for listening. And as always, stay tuned for more of the Bulletproof Podcast.